Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, liberal ladies. I hope your Friday is going well. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. So please, everyone, go to the pin post with Mary's video and click play. She has an amazing video and introduction about herself and why she's running for office. So just some housekeeping rules. This is a call to action. We are uplifting the members and women that are running for office, and we are asking our members to contribute as little as $5, and if you can give more, give more. For Mary's campaign tonight, we have approximately 1,000 members. So if we can get each member to support Mary in her campaign, that would be a tremendous contribution from our group for her to get her campaign going. And District 37 is an extremely important district in this upcoming election. So I definitely encourage everybody to please contribute to Mary's campaign. We are just so fortunate to have as many members as part of our group, and even more fortunate that we are able to support our beautiful women that are running for office. Mary, I had a chance to meet you for the first time during our mixer at the Bombshell Brewery earlier in the week. The weather was beautiful and the attendance was fantastic. So I was just telling the viewers that when I walked into the event the other night, Senator Wiley Nickel caught me in the parking lot, and then I'm walking in and then Edward Jones greets us and he's like, "Can I have a picture?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I was not picture ready."
Well, you look fine. You look good.
Thank you. You look fantastic. And I felt like the night was for the candidates anyway. And you look great. And it was so nice talking to you. And you are just so personable and approachable and knowledgeable. So thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to spend a few minutes to talk to me.
Glad to do it. Glad to do it. So I'm sorry about all the technical difficulty. I don't know. I was pushing every button available. It didn't seem to be holding my nose right, I don't think.
No, it happens. Don't worry. I'm sure you did everything you could on your end. Believe me, I worked for Sprint many, many moons ago. They're not even in existence anymore. It's now T-Mobile that took them over, but I spent many hours on the phones helping both employees and customers get acclimated, and thankfully I know all about technology.
Well, it's certainly sometimes it can be challenging. It's a great asset, but sometimes it can be challenging.
Yes, and you know what? Having old school mechanisms, it will never go out of style.
Yes, that's true. That is true. But thank you for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I don't know if you heard me when I clicked on your video earlier today, and you had mentioned that it was 6 minutes long, and I listened to the entire thing and it felt like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I heard you. Thank you very much.
You just are so eloquent in the way that you speak, and very passionate. Your experience really comes through, and when you were just telling us in the video about yourself and how you came about to want to run for office, I was just like, wow. Your experience is impressive, and Your story is so powerful. So thank you. And I just wanted to ask you a couple questions, if I may.
All right, certainly.
So you mentioned that you retired in 2020. Tell us a bit about what you did when you were working.
Great. I'm glad to. I have a social work background, so I lived outside of North Carolina for about 6 years. I'm a North Carolina native, but lived outside of North Carolina for 6 years, and I worked in social work then. And when we moved back to North Carolina, we came to Raleigh. So I started working for this, what at that time was called the State Division of Aging, working in programs for older people. So things such as an advocate for nursing home residents, supervising the home delivered meals program for the state, things of that nature. And then the last 13 years I was there, I was a special assistant to the director. And that's when I first started working some with the legislature on policy issues and making sure the needs of older adults were, they were aware of them. So in 2005, I retired from the division. I went to work for ARP North Carolina as Associate State Director of Advocacy. And we worked on a whole broad spectrum of issues, all the way from voter rights to tax issues to trying to get services to people in their homes to home repair, things of that nature. And I retired again from, oh, sorry, my dog.
It's okay.
And I retired again, and I became executive director of the North Carolina Coalition on Aging, which is a membership organizations of consumer provider and advocacy groups that are concerned with aging in North Carolina, basically trying to move the needle on aging issues in the state. So my whole work career has been around working with issues for older adults and persons with disabilities, working a lot on health issues, tax issues, things dealing with quality of life.
That's
And my dog
incredible.
finally calmed down a little bit. she she came in from the outside.
My
Sorry.
dog, my dog. I'm surprised she hasn't used her voice this time while we've been logged in, because she if she hears me talking, she wants to find out who, what, when, where, why, too.
Yes,
So
yeah, they have a way about them, don't they?
I love it. I love it. Tell me, what type of work or activities were you involved with when you interacted with the General Assembly? That's extremely interesting.
Well, actually, they can kind of fall into two areas. One is where you're proactive, where you're really pushing for something that you're advocating for. And then the other is you're reacting, where you're trying to think what we think were bad things from happening. For instance, things like want to tax prescription drugs or something like that. So I did a lot of tried to educate and inform legislators about issues. I spoke a lot at hearings that legislature had. I attended meetings, monitored those to make sure that things were moving along as should. I actually, as I said, I retired in January of 2020, but I was actually called back. The General Assembly asked me to come back at the start of the pandemic to do the presentation about the needs of older adults in North Carolina and how the General Assembly should respond during at the beginning of COVID to address those needs. So I was very honored to do that. I mean, I'm kind of an old war horse, so I've been around for for a long time. So hopefully, I could be a respected voice for trying to lay those issues out and the recommendations. Also, I worked a lot with volunteers to have volunteer advocates be the spokespersons for issues. So you would train volunteers to be advocates. They would then embark on a lot of strategies and techniques that you would utilize to try to get positive action taken on your positions, such things as letter writing campaigns, call-ins, days at the legislature, letters to the editor, things like that you would do. So I've kind of done all the grassroots stuff, but also done a lot of the policy work too. Involved a lot in helping legislators draft legislation that impacts older people, things of that nature. But sometimes you had to really be you pulled out all the stops if it's something that you thought was really going to be detrimental to the state. I mean, for instance, like voting rights, when there was a lot of what we thought were fairly regressive issues or ways of trying to roll back the voting rights of a lot of folks. One of the groups that was very much disenfranchised with that were older adults. When you talk about voter IDs and things like that, a lot of older adults were born at home and there were no birth records available for them. So it's very difficult sometimes for individuals to have that identity that to prove who they are. So, like I said, it's either proactive or reactive, but hopefully for the most part, it could be proactive because you've laid the groundwork. One of the most important things I tell people is you've got to develop relationships with your legislators. And you don't wait until something comes up that you either oppose or support. Developing relationships with legislators is a long-term process that you build on. And you need to put a face on the issue because the people and lawmakers are no different. If people can't relate to an issue, they aren't going to understand why it's important to folks. So that's a long answer to your question.
No, I love it. No, I agree. You know, when I first moved here to North Carolina, I would go to the different elected officials' offices, and would you believe it that I was in District 2. I know the maps have changed many, many times, but I was in District 2, and our representative would close his doors. He wouldn't open his doors to talk to his constituents. It was George Holding, and he's gone. Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
But
well,
you know,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I used to always tell folks a lot too, I used to do a lot of training for people about how to be an effective legislative advocate. But one of the things I would tell people is that one of the most important people to know is not only the legislator, but the legislator's assistant, because they're basically the gatekeeper for legislators. So it's important to know who they are and to make sure that when you send information, the legislative assistant gets to look at it, because lots of times they control what gets forwarded on to our elected officials.
I love it. No, and I agree with you. And I believe that, you know, Andrea and I, we both had conversations, and especially now with the primaries, and we're, you know, we just both feel it's extremely important that we provide a platform for folks running for office such as yourself, so that you can use your voice and reach the voters, and talk about why it's important for you to be voted in for this specific role. So along that line, tell us more about why you decided to enter this House race, District 37.
Well, if you've looked at my video that you so kindly posted, thank you for doing that. You'll see that one of the things I said is that because of my 20 plus years of working around the legislature, I know how the sausage is made, the good sausage as well as the bad sausage. So I think I have knowledge and background for knowing how to make good sausage. And that, I mean, and really I want to develop and be involved in good sausage development from the standpoint of benefiting our state of North Carolina and also our district. I'll also say that I believe very strongly in you need to have good working relationships with all the levels of government, judicial, legislative, and executive. And that has not always been the case. In the first 2 years of Governor Cooper's term, there were 28 bills vetoed, and 23, where the governor vetoed them, and 23 of those were overridden by the General Assembly. Since that time, there have been, let's see, I think it's 48 bills that have been vetoed, and 43 of those have not been overridden. So, you know, I will tell you, there was some pretty bad legislation that, and I'm, you know, I have a lot of tolerance for things, but there were some bills that were passed that just would have set our state backwards many years. In the early years of the Cooper administration. So the fact that we no longer have a supermajority in the General Assembly is very important to, in my view, to have a good checks and balances between the legislative and the executive branches of government. So that's another reason. And so
yes.
I think being able to win this election as a Democrat, for anyone who runs as a Democrat, is very important to help the governor sustain the vetoes.
I couldn't agree with you more. How did you settle on the core issues for your campaign?
Well, I've lived in this district, as the video said, for 35 years. And when you live here, you kind of get a feel for what the issues are that are important to your family, as well as your neighbors and the people in the area. Also, I guess having the perspective of working at the state level for so long, you kind of see what the big issues are that the state is grappling with. And I would say that a lot of the issues we have here that are really priorities are things that have been around for a long time and have not been things that are new to us. I mean, the issue of housing and transportation is becoming uh, more of something we need to address in our area just because of our growth, but it's an issue that's common to all high growth areas. We also have healthcare issues. I mean, healthcare challenges have certainly been important for a very, very long time. I mean, I was looking at data the other day. Over about 67% of all personal bankruptcies in North Carolina and across the nation are because of people's medical debt. And
Wow.
I also thought an interesting statistic I saw relative to medical debt was that 23 million Americans owe over $2,000 in medical debt, and 3 million of those owe over $10,000. So, we need to do more to ensure that everyone has access to health care and to insurance that is affordable for them. Um, some of the other issues like in the area of healthcare our state is currently facing is we have a huge crisis in the availability of workers in the healthcare field, particularly direct care workers. And, home health agencies, hospitals, long-term care facilities, they cannot find staff. And that has really impacted the quality of life of many people that have no option but to be either in a facility or in need of services in their home or in the hospital. So these are the
Wow.
types of paramount things that we need to address. I am the daughter of a school teacher. My daughter now is also a public school teacher. So I see firsthand, how important it is that we have a good education system. Um, you know, right now, I believe North Carolina is 33rd in the nation when it comes to teacher salaries, and we're 39th in the nation when it comes to the amount of funding we put in per pupil spending. So, those are issues that have been identified as top priority things that as a state, we really need to get a hold of. So I think things that I had personal experiences with, things I hear from our neighbor, and things that we know as a state that have been long-standing problems, but even some new things, of course, that have been brought on by COVID are things that we need to address. So
Oh,
I think that just having a background in those areas is that I'm passionate about is one of the reasons I'm running.
I love it. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I have been in North Carolina almost 7 years. And recently I learned about the Leandro plan and it being stalled for over 2 decades. I mean, that is just mind blowing.
And I will say that, I strongly believe that and it's in our Constitution, that we have a responsibility to fund a solid basic education for every student in North Carolina. And I think that some of the decisions that have been made in the last couple of years that is basically siphoning off money for public education. It's good to have options for education, but if you aren't going to put in adequate funding for public education and you put it in these other options, some of which are not accountable to the public. I mean, the Opportunity Scholarship Program has some advantages, but it also, you don't have accountability for it. So the public does not know, in many cases, how the funding is being spent. They do not, you don't have to have certain qualifications for teachers, things of that nature. So if we're going to put public money into things, we've got to have accountability for it. I mean, I know
I
another
agree.
big issue in North Carolina is about taxes and reducing taxes. Well, right now, North Carolina is flush with money. I mean, that's hard to believe in the midst of a pandemic. But the economy has been good in North Carolina. We've been very blessed, and we've gotten a lot of influx of federal funds that are coming in. Now, there's a big focus on less cutting taxes. Well, the problem is that you've got to have a certain basic amount of money in order to fund core services, whether it's transportation, whether it's road repair, whether it is housing, whether, all the things, the infrastructure and the human services needs that our state needs. The states look at various ways of doing this. A lot of them, have they're tax-based funds, most of it. Others do tolls, others do fees, things like that. But the fact of the matter is, if you're going to do things right to serve your citizens, you've got to have a certain amount of money to do it. And cutting taxes is not always the best thing to do. In some cases, if you want to really be responsive to your citizens. So that's I'm on my soapbox.
No, I agree. I love it. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Tell me, how do you plan on reaching the voters in our district?
It's going to be a really grassroots campaign. I mean, we're going to boots on the ground for folks, social media, um, going to lots of meetings and events, things of that nature. So it's really a lot of one-on-one contacting folks. Our district boundaries have changed some, so we need to get out in those areas, particularly where people don't know us. I am very lucky, having lived here for 35 years, that a lot of people know me for better or worse. So hope that will open up some opportunities also to do things. But you do, if with any type of campaign, all of us who are running for office, we have to rely on people to help us and to get our message out. So that's going to be our strategy, is grassroots.
I agree. And how can people volunteer with the campaign if they're interested?
Well, you can do a couple of things. One is on our website, which is marybethelfornc.com. There is a volunteer form there you can fill out and just give us your details about what you'd like to do, your availability, things of that nature. We also, you can send me an email directly, and my email is marybethelfornc@gmail.com. If you want to do that. And also, we're on Facebook. You can send us a message on that. So there's lots of ways to do it. But one of the things that we're really emphasizing in this campaign is we want to hear from folks, whether you volunteer or you just want to share your thoughts and ideas. So we hope that people will reach out and will engage with us and tell us what they think. And if they do want to volunteer, then that's great.
That's wonderful. I love it. Yes. I look forward to seeing you again at the next event. I think I've seen a few come across my news feed, and I think that there's plenty of opportunity for people to get out there to meet you and anyone else that is running for office during this go around. And I just admire your hard work and your passion, your drive. I admire you as a professional, as a person, as a woman. Thank you. Thank you for putting your name out there and for signing up for to do your campaign. Thank you.
And I will just say, we've got three very strong women running in this primary. We're different in some ways, but very much alike in others. So I think we're very fortunate that three of us have been willing to throw our hat in the ring on this.
Yes, I'm impressed. I'm totally in awe of all three of you, and I'm speechless. Really, I think it's fantastic. I think we have some good talent, and it provides the voters a lot to choose from. And Andrea and I are just so happy that we're able to provide everybody a platform so that we can get to know you and learn more about you and your campaign and why you're running and
Well,
how
thanks
we can.
for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for spending your Friday evening. You could be anywhere else, but you chose to be here with us tonight, and I'm so thankful for that. And as stated previously, I look forward to seeing you again at the next event.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for joining us. We know that you could be anywhere else, but you decided to be here. And if you're watching this on the replay, thank you so very much for taking time to watch us. Thank you. Thank you. And we look forward to seeing you each and every single Friday at 7 p.m. through the midterms. We want to make sure that we are able to help fund the campaign for the wonderful and amazing women that are running for office. We have so many of our members that are putting their name in the hat, and we are just so lucky. Thank you. And in order to build that better future that we want, we have to support, and that is by knocking on doors, by writing postcards, by contributing as little as $5 a member to these wonderful and amazing campaigns, so that we can ensure that we have the representation that we dream of, that we deserve, and that we want out there. Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you.